Baudry.
It's kind of fun. I was thinking about you guys last night. Chairman Campbell, Vice Chair Stevens.
You got the best job on the committee, don't you?
I mean, when they said it, I laughed, but I mean, it's kind of fun.
That past chair role is always a good one. Looks like, we have quite a few people with us. Miss Buttery, Miss Webster, Miss Cortez.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. I am at the Metro Plan Orlando office, and I can tell you it's very cold in here today. So, you're not missing anything by not being here. Our building 10's cold. And many of you know that because you've been.
Especially when it's pretty empty there, right?
And when it's overcast and gray outside, I think like a lot of our buildings, we get heat through the windows if the sun is out, our famous sun, but it's not out.
I'm loving this cold weather. I just didn't want the rain. I love cold
weather. You're
weather.
Loving it?
Yes. Reminds me of Tennessee.
Well,
weather.
Yes, it reminds me of Tennessee as well. I wouldn't say I'm loving it.
My daughter's in Tennessee, and she was saying she had enough of that Tennessee weather.
She's decamping for Florida.
And she has enough.
What part of Tennessee, Jeffrey?
She's in Murfreesboro, which is like just outside of Nashville.
Oh, yeah. That's where my sister attended college. She went to MTSU.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've been really getting in. They're building a house in St. Augustine. She said last night, they're thinking about even if the house is not done, they're ready to get
They're just going to move in.
They've had
Oh, my goodness. Well, it is 9:30, Mr. Chair. We are recording the meeting and streaming live on YouTube, so you may begin when you are ready.
Very good. Well, good morning and Happy New Year. Welcome to this virtual Metro Orlando CAC meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'm Jeffrey Campbell, and I'll be chairing the meeting today. We also have a team working to assure the meeting runs smoothly. Today's meeting was advertised on Metro Plan Orlando's website and social media, as well as through targeted emails. Florida Sunshine Law requires a quorum to be physically present in a room for a government meeting. Governor DeSantis suspended this requirement in an executive order, which has since expired. So this meeting is being held in workshop format to conform with sunshine requirements. Metro Plan Orlando advisory committees have been meeting in hybrid format since August, but returned to virtual workshop this month because of concerns about COVID-19 infection rates in Central Florida. Staff will advise us about the format for our February meeting moving forward. At this time, we're ready for our Pledge of Allegiance, and I've asked member Patricia Rump to do that for us. Others, please stay on mute.
Yes, and good morning. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Rump. At today's meeting, we'll keep microphones muted unless you've been recognized to speak. And we'll use the raise hands feature at the bottom of the Zoom screen to participate in discussion. There are 2 public comment points in the meeting. Members of the public who want to speak will use the raise hands feature on the Zoom screen. If attending by phone, you can hit *9, raise your hand, and request to be recognized. When you're called, your microphone will be temporarily unmuted by staff, and we'll ask you to state your name and contact information for the record. We also accepted comments by email, phone message before the meeting. We want online meetings to be accessible to all. Participants may join by computer, tablet, or phone. If you need accommodation to participate in the future, please contact Metro Plan Orlando. I would like to just say again, thank you for your vote of confidence in allowing me to serve as your chairman. I also think you have made an excellent selection with Dr. Dan Stevens. So congratulations, Mr. Vice Chairman. Also, congratulations again to our past chairwoman, Ms. Sarah El Badri. You've led us through a very trying time, so thank you for that. I was really hoping that we would be back to in-person meetings for today, but we just have to make the best of where we are. Based upon us meeting again, there's a few things that I would love to see us get to do over this next year. For example, I would love to see us have an in-person Brightline tour as well as an airport tour and the connectivity of both of them. I think that'd be really informative and interesting. To our member, Mr. Jose Alvarez, congratulations is in order, but I'm going to leave that because I know Ms. Horn is going to mention that in her agenda review. Okay, Mr. Vice Chairman, are we ready? Let's get started.
Yes, we are.
I'd like to recognize Ms. Mary Ann Horn, Metro Plan Orlando, for our agenda review.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Campbell, committee members, everybody attending online. Thank you all for working with us as we've conducted these virtual meetings. We appreciate your patience and your understanding. After a brief transition to meeting in person, we did feel it was wise to meet virtually this month. We will make an assessment before our next round of meetings begin, and we will let you know the plans well in advance. We do thank you for your flexibility. I want to add my voice in congratulating our new committee officers, Chairman Jeffrey Campbell and Vice Chair Dan Stevens. Thank you for agreeing to serve. We look forward to 2022 under your leadership. Recruiting for new Metro Plan Orlando appointees to the CAC has gone well. We received 23 applications for 5 open seats. The selection committee, which will be chaired by Mr. Campbell, will meet virtually on February 3rd to screen and discuss them. And we plan to have a recommended slate of new members in your information items for the February meeting. That slate will then go to Metro Plan Orlando board on March 9th. As Chairman Campbell mentioned, I do have a bittersweet announcement about Mr. Jose Alvarez, one of our Osceola County appointees. The bitter part is that he is stepping off of the CAC, but the sweet part is that he has accepted an appointment as the Region 4 Administrator for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, overseeing the Southeast, and that includes Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. So we send him our hearty congratulations on this new adventure in public service. One update to the agenda is about the format of the February 9th Metro Plan Orlando board meeting. That meeting is currently scheduled to be in person, but the board chair has indicated that she wants us to be sure and accommodate people who are uncomfortable attending in person. So a certain amount of flexibility there. And as I mentioned, we cannot yet say for sure what will be the format of our next meeting. Mr. Chairman, that completes my announcements this morning. I don't think there are any other changes to the agenda. Now we'd like to take attendance. I'm going to ask Ms. Lisa Smith to please call the roll.
Yes, good morning. I'll ask all committee members to please go ahead and unmute yourselves now for the roll call, and you can go on mute again after your name is called. Please make sure your video is on if possible so that we can confirm it's you. You will find the unmute and video buttons on your Zoom screen. Please say here or present when your name is called. Bobinger.
Here.
Buttery.
Present.
Campbell.
Present.
Sid. Cortez.
Present.
Council.
Present.
Davis. El Badri.
Present.
Henry.
Present.
Lassard. Liza Swan. Longville.
Present.
Longville.
Present.
Mott. Mott. Mueller. Handler,
Present.
O'Hanlon. O'Hanlon. Peters,
Present.
Pigram. Ronk,
Here.
Davidra. Salas,
Here.
Shaw,
Here.
Sabilla,
Present.
Stevens,
Here.
Alba,
Present.
Webster,
Present.
White.
Present.
Mr. Chair, that concludes the roll call. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Look like we almost have a full slate. Very good. Well, it's now time for our public comments on what we would normally call action items. But in this format, we will hear items for review. Do we have anyone that wish to speak to these items? If so, please use the raise hand function on your screen or press *9 on your phone keypad. When we call your name, the host will unmute your microphone. You will see a button pop up that says the host wants to unmute you. Accept the prompt to activate the microphone. We ask that you please provide your name and address for the record, and please hold your comments to 2 minutes or less. Are there any comments at this time?
Mr. Chairman, we have Joanne Canellis with her hand raised on the attendees side.
Okay. Do we have her activated?
Me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Ms. Cornelis.
Good.
Please state your name and information for the record, please.
Sure. Joan Canellis, 324 Claremont Avenue, Lake Mary, Florida, 32746. See, I tried to get this card out, but I can't, so that's why I keep raising my hand so much. So, and my picture of me of my swimming's not on there yet at all. It's supposed to be on it. The last time I was there, I had my picture right on it with my, with my swimsuit on. Now you got the men's clothes. Sorry, but I'd like to have a bus and train, 24 hours bus and train service, including holidays, weekends, and nighttime. Okay.
Okay, so your concern is about access at your home?
Yeah, I want my bus stop right over at the at Country Club Road in Estella, please. Like they had the bus stop there, please.
Okay, so we do have your name and we have your address now, so we can have someone look at that. But did you have a comment regarding one of our normal action items? Was that your only concern?
Yeah, that's it. Because I wanted to get the bus out there on the corner at the Country Club Road and Estella, right by the park. It's right there, so I can have a bus in there without having to walk so much. Because this is why I'm home for too, because of the cold weather. It's dreary outside.
Thank you, Ms. Canellis. We will make it. It is duly noted, and we will have someone look at that for you.
Thank you. You know where that Estella is? At Estella Road?
We can have someone look that up for you.
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'd also like to have the bus also at the what do you call it? Oviedo Boulevard by the swimming pool, where I've been swimming at. It's over that big Kahuna pool.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'd like to have that. Yes, please.
Very good. We will have someone make contact with you, okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I need it badly.
Have a great day.
Okay. Thank you, too.
Okay, all right.
Happy New Year's.
And you too.
Thank you.
Okay, were there any other hands raised?
No, there were no other hands raised.
And were there any written comments submitted before the meeting?
No, Mr. Chair, we did not receive any written comments, but with your permission, I would like to pause here and note a couple of things. First, that Mr. O'Hanlon has joined us. He was unable to, he was over on the other side of the meeting and not able to answer the roll by
Welcome,
voice,
Mr.
but
O'Hanlon.
he is here now with us. And also, I believe we have a couple of other people to recognize. Mr. Sialsi Fine is here from the FTE. And also, Ms. Sarah McNamara, are you our representative from FDOT?
Yes, ma'am.
Nice to have you with us. Thank you very much. But no, we did not have any written comments from the public.
Very good. Okay. Okay, we have 2 items for review or discussion today. Our first item is a review of the minutes from December 1st meeting, which are in tab 1 of your agenda packets. I hope we've all had a chance to read them. Are there any corrections or revisions that need to be brought to the staff's attention? Everything looks good?
It's a motion to accept the minutes as presented, Mr. Chair.
Very good. As a reminder, this will be brought back for a formal approval at a future in-person meeting. We'll be meeting in workshop format. Our next item is the support for FDOT performance measures, targets, and links asset management targets found in tab 2. Mr. Nick Lepp from Metro Plan Orlando will present the information. Please hold your questions until the presentation is finished. Mr. Lepp, you have our attention.
Good morning and Happy New Year all. Next slide, please. So every year, we have to come back and confirm our federal performance measures and targets as we use that for our performance-based planning. These are only the federal measures as they were identified through the FAST Act and then continued through the latest infrastructure bill that was just passed recently. Next slide, please. The purpose for this, which all started through MAP 21, which was the previous infrastructure legislation, was all to add a performance-based planning component to our MPO prioritization process. And that way we can assess and identify significant progress towards achieving these federal targets and performance measures. Well, we also identified, as you remember, as part of our metropolitan planning process, several other performance measures used in our prioritization. Next slide, please. So we have 2 options through this federal target setting. We could either support the Department of Transportation's targets for safety, pavement management, bridge condition, and travel time reliability, and as well as links for safety and transit asset management. Or we could come up with our own performance measures and targets for each one of those federal ones. But in that case, we would be doing our own data and analysis to help support what goes through for the state anyway. So in the past, historically, we have always chose to support the statewide targets for these federal performance measures for our performance-based planning. Next slide, please. So we have several measures. The first one is PM1, which is our safety performance measure, which looks at the number of fatalities, the rate of fatalities, as well as the number and rate of serious injuries and non-motorized or vulnerable roadway users. Next slide, please. The state has adopted a Vision Zero target, as we look forward and prioritize projects for safety. You will see a presentation coming up later, which talks about our goals and our emphasis areas, which will discuss how safety has been our #1 goal in moving projects forward. So we are looking to continue to support statewide target of Vision Zero, which has been done since February 2018. Next slide, please. Thank you. The next one is travel time reliability. One back, please. There it is. All right, so travel time reliability, which is our alternative kind of to looking at volume to capacity. It's the reliability of the roadway. Understanding that some areas are congested, but as I've said in the past, those could be reliably congested, meaning that they're congested during those same peak periods of rush hour every day, all week long, In that case, it is reliable. And that's the definition used by the federal performance measures and how we've been measuring our corridors over the past couple of years. So again, we're going to look to support the department's target, looking at a 75% reliability and 70% on the interstate, as well as a 50% on those non-interstate, and then for freight reliability. Next slide, please. Oh, I think it skipped over bridge and pavement. So if we can go back to, I'm sorry, I missed the order. So under bridge and pavement condition, again, this is where we look at poor and good conditions. The state has had always a great historical record as they've taken some money off the top for our state of good repair under both bridge and pavement. So Florida has been in great shape, and we continue to support the department's goals and targets on bridge and pavement condition for our region. Next slide, please. And now we'll go into transit asset management. This is with links as we support them with some of our federal funds and making sure that they have correct buses and also facilities to maintain our public transportation system. We still support their targets on maintaining that system. Next slide, please. As well as safety. Lynx has some safety targets, though they are a little different than our Vision Zero safety, as their injuries have to be measured as somebody may be tripping and falling at a bus stop. That can't always be done as a Vision Zero, but so we do have some actual targets there for them, but otherwise fatalities, Lynx supports the state's and our Vision Zero target. Next slide, please. So with that, I would like to ask if there's any questions, but we are looking to re-support all of the federal performance measures for both FDOT and Lynx as we move forward for this next year for our performance-based planning.
Thank you, Mr. Lepp. Do we have any questions or comments for Mr. Lepp? Do we have any hands raised?
Yes, I think my hand is raised.
Well, you're recognized, Ms. Rump. I don't see your hand, but you're recognized.
Okay, thank you very much. I got a question, just a quick question, Nick. Thank you for the presentation, as always. On your slide number 2, the statewide target, and it's at performance, but 2 years target for interstate reliability was 75%, and 4 years target, it went down to 70%. What factors would make that difference in performance to be dropped from 75 to 70? I'm just curious.
Well, so we have a 2-year and 4-year targets, but as we go through our planning and also the state, we have a 5-year transportation improvement program. So understanding as these targets are set, we still have projects that were approved 5 years ago on the books as they're starting to come forward. So our targets were set, and I believe the state's targets were set based on what projects we had coming down the pipeline to make sure that we were still managing and maintaining those targets. And now as we start seeing a lot of these newer plans, as we just adopted our MTP in 2020, you'll start seeing some of those newer projects come in, and the state could be looking at adjusting some of these targets down the road. But that was the original target setting kind of idea and guidance.
Okay.
Very good. Ms. Horn, I can't see the hands. If their hands raised, I cannot see them.
Mr. Chair, there are currently no hands
Okay.
Raised among the panelists.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, my
Yes,
computer
Mr. Hanlon.
does not have a thing to raise my hand anymore. Don't understand why.
Okay, maybe
However,
that's why I'm not seeing you.
Probably, okay. But I do want to make a comment. And the comment really is not only for us, but it's for FDOT. And for them to just pass along the fact that they do a phenomenal job keeping our roads in great condition. When you drive around this country and you see the poor condition of other states, it just really makes you appreciate the great job that FDOT is doing here in Florida. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. If the hands feature is not working, I'll just say if you will just raise your physical hand and we could recognize you. But if there's none, Mr. Lepp, I was going to ask you, how are the matrix or the metrics set for the goals or the targets? How do you come up with the numbers for those? Can you talk to us about that a little?
Sure. So under the federal targets, that was established by the state as they looked at their existing kind of state of good repair for the bridge and pavement conditions, and then establishing a reasonable target and realistic target, and DOT's is quite high for those bridge and pavement, going off of what Mr. O'Hanlon said, because they do a great job taking those funds off the top and making sure that our system is in good repair. As for the travel time reliability, that one was more of a process of determining, all right, well, what projects were on the books over the next 5 years to meet a 2-year and 4-year target, and establish those realistic targets to make sure that those projects went through for implementation. So that was more of a target developed based on the projects that were already in the pipeline to make sure that the state was still achieving that. And then there's the aspirational target, which is the safety target, which is a vision 0. Understanding that within 2 years and 4 years, we will not be able to achieve vision 0, but it's still our target to make sure that we don't, we value life, and that all life, we want 0 fatalities or serious injuries. So those are kind of the 3 ways of how the targets were established for the federal. As for the rest of our targets, the 27 that's part of our performance-based planning, those were set as part of the MTP process, working using our MTP working group to establish those goals, objectives, and performance targets that we were using for the remaining projects in performance-based planning.
Very good. Okay. Any other discussion or questions for Mr. Lepp? Well, thank you very much, Mr. Lepp. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, we have 3 presentations today. Again, please use your raise hands feature, but if it's not working, just raise your physical hand so we can see you until we can figure out what's wrong with that. We'll ask you if you will hold your questions until the end of the presentation. First, we have a presentation on Florida Sunshine Law by Ms. Virginia Whittington of Metro Plan Orlando staff. Ms. Whittington, you have our attention.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and CAC members. I'm Virginia Whittington, Director of Regional Partnerships here at Metro Plan Orlando. For those who I have not met yet, I see a lot of unfamiliar faces, but in the near future, we will definitely get a chance to meet. For those who may not be able to see where your raise hand feature is, there was a change in some of the Zoom features, and it may be under reactions. So if you hover down near the bottom of your screen and you see a reactions button, if you click there, you will find your raise hand inside of there. There you go. See, I see them going up and down. Awesome. So the purpose of my presentation this morning is as a refresher. It's more of an opportunity for us to refresh your memory, to remind you of what is required of the CAC for your, and to also thank you for your service, your willingness to serve in this capacity. We bring this refresher to you because during the course of your work, there may be instances where you have occasion to speak with another CAC member, and we want to make sure that we're able to help you to be in compliance with the law. Next slide, please. There are 3 basic requirements, and many of you have seen this either during your orientation onboarding or at one of the other presentations that we've done in the past. But the 3 basic requirements for public meetings is that first, the meeting must be open to the public and it must be accessible. We must give reasonable notice, and then there must be minutes taken at each of the meetings. Next slide. So then the question becomes, what is a public meeting? And this is found in Florida Statute 286.011. And this is that all board meetings or commissions of state agencies where official acts are taken. So each of your CAC meetings are considered a board or commission that is under the state agency or the auspices of Metro Plan Orlando. And if you'll go to the next slide, this extends to advisory committees that are established in public agencies. You are also subject to the sunshine laws. Even though your recommendations may not be binding. I mean, you're making recommendations to the Metro Plan Orlando Board. It's up to the Metro Plan Orlando Board to receive and accept those recommendations. And so what does this mean for you? Next slide. It means that discussions between 2 or more members about any topic that could foreseeably, and I will stress the word foreseeably, come before your board or this committee or the Metro Plan Orlando Board must be publicly noticed and must be held in a forum that is considered a public meeting. So 2 or more members of the CAC having a conversation by phone, in person, by email, by text, by courier pigeon, any of those ways will violate the sunshine laws if it is not duly posted. And that you also must declare conflicts of interest when they arise. And those conflicts may include community activities. For instance, if 2 or more CAC members are serving on a civic board or a civic organization, and you are, let's say, the chair and vice chair of a transportation committee of your public agency, and you're discussing transportation issues. What we ask is that you help us to keep you in compliance by letting us know. We're not saying that you should not volunteer your time with civic duties, but let us know so that we can post that meeting on our board, and you will be in compliance with the law. So again, this is just a quick reminder, a refresher to you so that you are aware. There are civil penalties for violations. If someone calls foul ball, it could undo processes. It could also end up with a fine or up to 6 months in jail. And we do not want to have anyone to go through anything like that. So at this point, I will stop and ask if there are any questions. Next slide. If there are any questions of me.
Thank you, Ms. Whittington. We do have a hand up. I see Dr. Stevens has his hand raised. Dr. Stevens, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello again, Virginia.
Dr. Dan, congratulations on your vice chair.
Thank you so much. Quick question. If you could qualify the word potential in there. You said, like, for example, let's say Jeffrey Campbell and I, given that there's 2 Jeffreys in this meeting, we're in a meeting and we are in discussions and we talk about something and it becomes an action item at a future meeting. Now, unbeknownst to us, we're talking about this topic. So there's some gray area there. You want to kind of clear the air as far as how that works?
Yeah, if you have a topic that you are speaking on, let's say, I'm not just going to use the Bright Line and any conversations or decisions that may be forthcoming. We know that that is a project that is in discussion and it could foreseeably come before the Metro Plan Orlando Board for action at some point. Then yes, that would need to be posted and you should probably steer away from those conversations. If you're talking about the tour that Mr. Campbell mentioned earlier, he mentioned that it would be a great idea to have a Bright Line technical tour. That is not a decision that's going to be made to say, yeah, that would be a great idea, is not a violation. So I don't know if that muddied the water or if it cleared it up, but if something could foreseeably come before the Metro Plan Orlando Board for action, you should probably either steer clear of it or we post the meeting for you to have those conversations in the sunshine.
Understood. I guess my question is, basically, I can only imagine most of us have an interest in transportation, subjects. And so I can only imagine these things come up in conversation a lot more frequently than the lay person out on the street. So I'm thinking, well, one thing you suggested was, our knowledge, if you think it's going to come up and, as an action item, I guess, is that the acid test there? If
That would,
known to
that would be
us,
a great litmus test. And again, it's not to say that you cannot have conversations. It's not to say that you can't be at a function together and you can't have conversations. What it boils down to is the perception of someone who may be looking or watching, and what could potentially happen as a result of them, filing an ethics complaint. So we want to just steer clear of any of those things. And so it's just a refresher. It's just a reminder. You don't have to walk around on eggshells. Just be cognizant and have that little radar that says danger, Will Robinson, in the back of your head, that would stop you from going any further. And that would include making phone calls. It's easy to pick up the phone and call someone. And then you come to these meetings and you say, well, I talked to this person about this, and clearly that would be a violation.
thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Sabila, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Campbell. Good morning, Ms. Whittington. Thank you so much for the information. Any workshop meetings that our committee members are attending, are those following Sunshine State laws?
If they are hosted by Metro Plan Orlando, we post all of our meetings where 2 or more members are planning to be in attendance. In fact, we go so far as that if we know of other meetings that you may be at, we will post them just to cover.
Terrific. Thank you very much. And I do start having the eggshells laid out already, so I'll make sure not to go forward with that. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Ms. Mott, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the recognition. Also, I just want to say quickly, I'm unsure if I was recognized during roll call. My camera went out, microphone went out during that point. So if I was not, please note that I am here for the record. Ms. Whittington, thanks for the information. I tell you, every year I brace for your presentation because it scares me. And I don't know what scares me most. I don't know if it's worse sitting around on a Saturday binge watching Fatal Vows, Snapped, Murderous Killers, or what, because every time I hear this stuff, it always scares me. And I tell you what, in particular, things centered around the social media aspect of it. Have there been any changes with regards to how we are to conduct ourselves on social media, Facebook, any of the various social media platforms? Have there been any changes to any recommendations for us as to how we're supposed to conduct ourselves in that platform?
Thank you for your question, Ms. Mott, and it's good to see you. No, there has not been any changes, and what we recommend is read and not respond when it comes to transportation issues. It is a way that we know that the public is very engaged on our Facebook channels, your Facebook channel. So if there is something that 1 or more of your members are responding to and you engage in that conversation on social media, of course, screenshots, and there's so much evidence that is left there, that, my recommendation is that you read and not respond. Just read, be informed of what the public is saying. You're able to bring that to a meeting that's in the sunshine and to discuss that while you are in a forum like this. But I would recommend you not respond to threads.
Okay, well, thank you kindly. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Ms. Council, you're recognized.
Thank you. Good morning. And thank you, Chair. Ms. Virginia, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. Thank you. It's good to see you.
Awesome to see you always. I have a question. When I started with the Metro Planning Board a couple of years back, this was my very first board. At this time right now, I sit on several boards. So was that something that I was supposed to keep on informing the Metro Board about? Because I just heard you say you post other meetings when you know that board members are on others. I was just appointed to the KPD advisory board as well, on top of other boards that I am. So is that something that I have to send you a list of?
No, and thank you for asking that question. If I was not clear, and thank you for serving and volunteering on the various boards that you serve on. We don't post other civic duties that you have or engagements that you have. What I mentioned was if there is, say, a meeting where we know that there's going to be more than one Metro Plan Orlando board member, or there may be board members and CAC members who sit on the Metro Plan board, we will take the responsibility to do that. It's nothing that you have to notify us of. Now, if you and another CAC member is serving on that board that you just mentioned, and you and another board member are on the same board, then yes, it's something that we would ask that you would let us know about, just so that we can post it just in case something comes up.
Okay, I haven't experienced that one yet. All of my board members from the Metro Planning are very far from me. So the boards I serve are closer to the area where I'm at. So there is none at this time that we are joined together. But just for the future, because I know that there's 5 more applicants that are coming, it's good information to have. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hey, Ms. Rump, you're recognized.
Thank you very much. And good to see you, Ms. Whittington. Maybe this may not apply, but the thought crossed my mind. With the mayor getting ready to pitch his transportation initiative, he will be crisscrossing across the county, holding town hall meetings, which I will be attending. Does this, what you just said, apply to those meetings as well, or I'm just out in left field right about now?
I'm never left out in left field. Those meetings are publicly noticed. The public is invited. So in those instances, you're fine.
Good, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Ms. Whittington, you've given us really good information and great examples, but I'm going to ask you one more. And I'm going to ask you, tell me when we may cross the line in the real world example. Like, say if Mr. O'Hanlon and I are on our bikes and we decide we're going to stop at the Townhouse restaurant in Oviedo and have a cup of coffee, and we look at each other, we start talking business. What might we say that crosses the line that we shouldn't go into? An example.
If you say something like, at the next CAC meeting, we are going to be talking about blah, 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 blah project. And, I just feel that this is the way I'm going to go. That is way across the line.
That doesn't take much to cross the line.
It doesn't take much. So I would say, have your conversation, just don't talk CAC.
Well, thank you very much for your update today.
You're welcome. This always brings about lots of questions, lots of scenarios. If you or any of the other board members are ever in a position where you are guessing, please feel free to call myself, call Marianne, or one of the team, and we're here to help.
Thank you for being there for us.
No problem. Thank you.
Next, we have a presentation on the progress made during 2021 on implementing the Metro Plan Orlando Board's weighted goals for priorities by Mr. Nick Lepp again. Mr. Lepp,
good morning. Good morning again. So here I'm going to present, and I'll give you a little history. Next slide, please. The prior long-range transportation plan, the 2040 plan, which was largely a get the red out roadway widening plan, didn't have a lot of goals and objectives or areas to move forward multimodal projects like trail connectivity, complete street. Safety was added later, but then Sunrail, and then engaging the younger population. But last year in 2020, when we adopted the Metropolitan Transportation Plan and looking at the goals and objectives, we wanted to align our goals and objectives more with those emphasis areas that the board had and they established close to 5 years ago. Next slide, please. So within those goals of the MTP, we established health and environment, safety and security, reliability and performance, access and connectivity, and investment in the economy. These were our 5 overarching goals that helped develop that 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan and vision for the future. Next slide. And when establishing those, we wanted to look at and make sure to incorporate those emphasis areas that the board has had over the past 4 years that we've used to help program projects and help move that needle more towards that multimodal focus that Metro Plan has had for projects like Complete Street and Safety and TSMO and trail connectivity, which has helped advance those in the TIP over the last 4 years. But now that we have the new MTP, which has really been established through our performance-based planning process, we now aligned our goals with those emphasis areas, so we don't have to have 2 different conversations with the board every year. Next slide, please. So how did we do? In doing this, when we started back in 2017, we were looking at only spending about 70% of our urbanized area funds on those kind of emphasis areas, looking at those multimodal Complete Street, Safety, trail connectivity projects, and TSMO. So over the years, as we've established those emphasis areas and used those in the prioritization, that amount has actually increased over the years to the point where we've actually received more money than our traditional allotment for these projects because we've been so diligent in spending and programming, to the point where this past year, using the new performance-based planning and weighted goals, we were actually at 124% over what we typically get in allotment over the 5 years for those type of projects, which is a pretty big milestone. Next slide, please. Now, I will note that that did include some stimulus funding that came in, but that those projects all came through with an extra weighting of safety and security, looking at access and connectivity, as well as investment in the economy, reliability and performance, and health and environment. So those are our goals with performance measures, with safety and security as our #1 weighted goal moving those projects forward, that we used last year to help advance those projects, which you can start seeing that big increase in those projects that hit our emphasis areas. I will say that the safety and security also has an additional emphasis for vulnerable road users. So that performance measure actually gets some additional weight as it's moving projects forward for programming. Next slide, please. So, sorry, back one more slide. Thought I had it. So with that, what we're doing is we are coming back to the committees and to the board to just confirm that we want to continue using this weighting process with safety and security first and the vulnerable roadway users. I think based on the performance of the funding, we're starting to see some significant increase in those projects to move that needle for safety, Complete Streets, and trail connectivity. So with that, that's how we've performed over the past year, and we'll continue to monitor this and make sure that we're achieving our goals and objectives towards multimodal transportation system. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Lepp. Any questions for Mr. Lepp? I don't see any hands raised. There we go. Ms. Henry, you're recognized. Hit your unmute button.
Thank you. Just a quick question. That was a good presentation or a good review. Under the goal of access and connectivity, what just for a general idea, what type of projects are we usually looking at under that particular area? Anything specific that you can share?
So the performance measures that go along with that are measures like people's access to their jobs, access to essential services is one of our measure, and that's kind of a proximity. If areas don't have sidewalks or there are significant sidewalk gaps, or even if there's a significant congested intersection, that could also help contribute to what that person's access is to those destinations. So it's a combination of several performance measures under that help us guide to make sure that we're getting people closer to their jobs and services. I'd be happy to provide the full list of what those measures are. We also have them on our website under the performance-based planning, but those are largely the measures that are used for that access.
Okay, and how about the connectivity portion of that?
It goes along the same sense. So our connectivity is making sure that you have your connected sidewalks. Those connected sidewalks are connected to the transit lines, making sure our system is fully connected. So we're looking at those gaps in areas, as I don't want to call them, deserts, but like a food desert or a transit desert where you just don't have reasonable access to use that mode. Those are the metrics that we're using to help have those projects that would solve that problem rise up to the top for funding.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Ms. Rump, I believe you were next. You're recognized.
Okay, thank you very much. Some of you may know me and probably don't, but I'm a very grassroots person. I'm really concerned about the local level and what goes on in the local community. So with that being said, I noticed, Mr. Lepp, if you can give me an example of environment, does that include litter when you speak of the in environment?
It doesn't necessarily include litter. What we're looking at is environmental impacts with our projects and projects that may help improve the health and environment. For example, anything that could reduce some congestion and improve some air quality also improves the environment. We have, as part of our metrics, sidewalks and other multimodal features which help improve the health of our community, which also falls under that environment goal.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Council, you are recognized. Ms. Council?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you say, Mr. Council. Thank you so much. My question was exactly that one. When he referred to Mr. Lepp, when you referred to health, what did you mean exactly? How is that? How are they going to work the health part of it?
Well, we have some measures, and we've been supporting a health in all transportation plans and programs as part of an organization for the past couple of years. But we're actually just completing our health strategic plan, which you all should be seeing later on your agendas down in a couple months. With that, we will start to incorporate some of these health principles and metrics within our region and incorporate that into our plans and programs to make sure that not only our projects are going to help the transportation system, but also help create a healthier community.
Could you give me an example of what those would be?
So, for example, we're working with the health departments on their community health plans. And within that, there are things like people's access to healthcare services. So as we're looking at projects and sidewalks in the transit plan, it would be identifying that as one of those metrics to help out not only our transportation system and access, but it also helps support the health community in getting people to their medical appointments and destinations with better or easier access. So that's how we're partnering with that through these goals and objectives and performance measures to help make sure that our projects that aren't just checking that box for transportation reliability or putting in a sidewalk, they're also helping provide better access for essential services or even healthier living for access to parks and other recreation facility.
And is the Ponciana, Kissimmee, Osceola County area on that list to help that way? Because you said that it was areas that were desert areas, which that this would be?
I mean, we are working with Osceola, Orange, and Seminole's health departments on their community health plans. So we're at the table and part of that. And actually, we just had Sarah and I will be putting together some of the numbers for the monitoring based on the traffic for their plan itself. So we are involved and looking at those projects and also trying to develop and help them with some of the transportation metrics and some of the things that we're seeing as we've been talking about with access. And it's really a lot to do with people's access to getting to the medical appointments. And it's not just putting a transit line in front of their place. It's just making sure maybe there's other options to provide better access. So
I would love the areas that are going to be worked on. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Cortez, you're recognized.
Thank you so much. My question was regarding what is the range for the younger population aspect, and then what kind of sort of projects? I mean, I understand with COVID, it might be difficult to maybe go out and engage with events and whatnot, but I was wondering what kind of projects MetroPlan is doing to get people to know about MetroPlan. I know I'm 24 and I talk to a lot of my friends and they've never heard of MetroPlan until I bring it up and I start talking about things. So So I was just wondering what the range was and just how else are we engaging people that are not interested in transit, and how do we give them like a really nice holistic understanding of how this impacts, the bigger scheme of things.
Well, I have to give a big shout out to our regional partnerships team and communication team, because that is all them and they do a great job. And I would rather they explain all of the great stuff they do than I try to summarize it for them. So I don't know, Cynthia, are you available to address that? Maybe she's not available right now too, but I bet we can put something on there for her to show our recent engagements and everything that we've been doing.
Thank
you. Okay, Vice Chairman Stevens, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Lepp, for that presentation. If I might, I've actually raised this point in past meetings. I'd like to play devil's advocate, at least caution us as to our approach with some of these, specifically the safety, aspect. That obviously, safety is an important consideration. However, we don't want to be so safety minded that we do not implement an idea. For example, years back, now we're talking BPAC days, way years ago, we had the opportunity, the Turnpike Enterprise was going to select 2 areas in the state to fund a pilot program, and the bridge across Lake Jessup in Seminole County, going down 417, was slated to be one of those, where they were going to pick up the tab for dedicated bike lane. There was plenty of roadway there, and they were going to make it safe and have that connection across the lake. Unfortunately, one of the board members at the time cited the Vision Zero. We don't want any possibility of anybody getting hurt, and so they use that as justification to deny that request. And my thought was, I've got you that we want to be safe. We want to build safe facilities, but we don't want to be so safety minded that now people have to ride their bike all the way around this lake or walk all the way around this lake instead of, implementing a good, seemingly sound idea. So, I just want to make sure that we're not, getting in our own way. So comments on that? I understand it could have been a political question too. And, maybe I wasn't privy to any kind of discussions there, but I couldn't understand the rationale as to why they would turn down free money. And, I thought it'd be a great feather in our hat. So comments?
Well, I can't speak to the 417 and the trail bridge. I wasn't here for those discussions, but what I can tell you is the projects that we've identified are feasible projects. They all came out of our Metropolitan Transportation Plan as we looked at the needs and what projects could be feasible and implemented. That's kind of our task over the next couple of years, is really to go down and refine those and make sure that some of these bike lanes or trails that we've identified locations that they are feasible to go in. So anything that we're advancing forward for the funding using these weighted goals and objectives and performance measures are all projects that we've identified to go forward now. So I'm not sure what happened with that 417 and the trail, if it was there and then pulled out, but that's how our projects, and that's how we're using this weighted goals and emphasis areas to advance those projects in our PPL into the Transportation Improvement Program for funding.
So I can only imagine that's the key, is to actually go, abide by the process, and that would yield greater success as opposed. As I recall, it was probably more of a ad hoc thing, late notice, and so they didn't have a lot of preparation. But okay, noted. I just wanted to caution us to make sure we don't get in our own way. When we're looking at these things, that we're not preventing our improvements like that. So
And as a team and organization, I think we all work well together to define those projects that can move forward and that they are reasonable for implementation. And so that's where we do have those great discussions.
Certainly. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Vice Chairman Siemens, that was a good question, but very daring kind of question. I think the real key is to, when there's a project, to make sure that we look at it from all angles and try and include as much safety as we possibly can. Ms. Horn, your hand is raised.
Yes, it is. Mr. Chair, Ms. Lambert was watching our meeting on the participant side. We've now brought her over here. We'd like to address Ms. Cortez's question. It was a good one, and Ms. Lambert can speak to that now, if with your permission.
Great. Ms. Cortez, if you need to restate it, that's perfectly fine.
Good morning.
Would you like me to restate it, Ms. Lambert?
Well, let me take a stab at it. I think I remember all the major aspects, and if I'm missing anything at the end, you can let me know. So I know one of your questions was, what do we consider to be kind of the youth outreach or that younger population? And for us, it's really anything from college age and younger. So we're trying to reach those who are still in school and maybe making some career decisions. A lot of our outreach, especially with K through 12, will involve trying to expose them to transportation careers, the possibilities that there are in transportation. Of course, as you mentioned, during the pandemic, it's been near impossible to get into the schools, unfortunately. So we've been looking at what kind of other things that we can do. So we've developed some printed materials that we can provide to teachers and to parents. We have a really fun youth activity books for the younger elementary school kids, even into middle school. And then for the little bit older kids, we've been developing a program that's more STEM focused, where we teach them how to design their own streets using a free online program. And Marianne and Leilani have worked on a great video along with our planners that we're trying to develop so that anybody in the 3-county area can use. So that's coming soon. We've used it with one school in particular that we have a relationship with success. So hoping to do more of those digital avenue things as well. But if you all ever have any opportunities in your communities for us to reach younger folks, please let us know. We're always open to those. Did I get all your question, Maria?
Yes, thank you.
Very good. Okay, Ms. Council.
Hi, Ms. Lambert. Thank you so much, Sir Chair. You opened up the wrong can of worms right now, but I'm going to call you out on it. Hi, Ms. Lambert. I have 2 schools that I would love for you to come into for the AVID program to bring in anything and everything you want. And I will be doing events starting March all the way through, so I can pull out all of your metro planning. And I've already given out all 4 boxes of bags, coloring books, and the last of the stuff that you had. So I'm ready to pick up whenever you want to give me more. Thank you.
Well, you definitely get 5 gold stars, Nalissa, because yes, she's always out there and asking us for more materials. So we really, really appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lambert, for coming on and taking that for us. Mr. Lepp, thank you very much. I think we have put some great questions to you. It doesn't look like we have any more at this time. So thank you so much again. Our final presentation is from Ms. Emily Hanna of Bike Walk, Central Florida, who will provide an annual report on the Best Foot Forward Pedestrian Safety Program. Ms. Hanna, we are giving you our undivided attention.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate that. So my name is Emily Hanna. I am the Executive Director of Bike Walk Central Florida. Bike Walk Central Florida is a nonprofit advocacy organization in our region that promotes and tries to encourage safe and comfortable bicycling, walking, trail using, and the like. So today I wanted to come back. I presented to you guys last year on our signature pedestrian safety program, Best Foot Forward. We made some changes over the last year to the program. So I thought it was really important that we come back and share those updates with you and kind of take you along the process as we kind of update the Best Foot Forward program and expand it into new communities and new areas in the next fiscal year. So say, Lailani, when you are ready, I can go forward with the presentation. Thank you. So as a reminder, before I get in, and for those that are not familiar with the Best Foot Forward program, Best Foot Forward is our pedestrian safety program where we use 3 E's, actually 4, to promote and try to increase driver awareness and drivers' respect of pedestrians trying to cross the road. We do this, so our theme, our goal is, and our assumption is that if more drivers yield to pedestrians and stop for pedestrians in a crosswalk, more pedestrians will feel safer and therefore will use those crosswalks. So now drivers and people that are walking and biking kind of can expect where they're going to cross the road and hopefully reduce serious injuries and fatalities over time. Part of the Best Foot Forward program also tries to improve that driver behavior, just that general respect for people out walking and biking in their community. Because the emphasis is on that changing behavior, this is a slow kind of change over time. And so we want to try to show how we are able to capture some of the data and the changes we're making through those 3 E's, which are enforcement, so working with our enforcement partners on educating drivers that they have to stop and yield to a pedestrian. It's the law. We work with our education partners, also Metro Plan Orlando, to go out and talk about why pedestrian safety is important, why we need to be good stewards and good community members, and then also that what is the law, what are you supposed to do legally for a pedestrian when you are in a vehicle. And then the third E is the engineering component. And that's really working with our local communities, our local traffic engineers, our city engineers to look at some of the low cost engineering improvements that can be made, including signage and striping that actually improve both the driver's awareness of a crosswalk and also the safety and comfort for a pedestrian crossing that road. So I apologize, I did not kind of include that in this presentation. I know most of you are familiar with our organization and the Best Foot Forward program. This is one of the Metro Plan Orlando's signature pedestrian programs that we have the great pleasure of administering on behalf of all of our coalition partners. So I'm going to kind of start with what has changed in the program since I last came and spoke with you guys last year. And that is we've added some new partners. So we welcomed Oakland, the town of Oakland, and the city of Apopka to the program in late 2021. And then as we kicked off the 2022 program year, we included the city of Longwood and the city of Winter Park. We are still looking at expanding to other cities. So if your community is not a participant in the Best Foot Forward program, please reach out to me. I will come and talk to whoever I need to try to convince and get them to be a part of this program. Next slide, please. The next thing that we did, and I talked a little bit about this last year, was we actually put our data online. So now we have an interactive map that you can use on our website that shows where the crosswalks that we're monitoring are located, if they've improved in their driver yield rate, what is that driver yield rate? How many enforcements have we done? Have we done any community outreach or engagement around those crosswalks? So all of the data we are collecting are now up on our website. And because we've been able to put our data kind of in this mapping analytic format, we were able to kind of glean some big picture kind of data trends now that we're able to kind of amass this data and look at it in a different manner. I'll talk a little bit about that later in the presentation. Next slide, please. So though this is not specifically related to the Best Foot Forward program, it is of course related to Bike Walk and of course our opportunity to expand our outreach and education efforts for bike and pedestrian safety. So this year, we actually launched a program with Healthy West Orange to help promote trail connections, safe and comfortable routes, both for a health aspect, the environment. I heard you guys kind of asking Nick those questions earlier, but also to try to connect the communities in West Orange County. The West Orange Trail is a great signature trail, but how do we connect all of those communities to that signature trail and around West Orange County? So because we took on that new role, we hired more staff. And so now we have more dedicated people, professionals to improving the safety and comfort of everyone that walks, bikes, and rolls in our region. Next slide, please. So moving into the Best Foot Forward program, so what did we accomplish last year? Well, we held 3 high visibility enforcement operations, about 40 details. So that's every time an enforcement partner enforces a specific crosswalk. That equated to over 700 warnings and citations to drivers out on our roadways. We attended over 132 events, reached over 12,000 people, and distributed about 13,000 materials that talked about the law, talked about safety education. That doesn't include anything bicycle related. We do fit helmets oftentimes when we go into schools with the program. That's not something that we measure for a contractual obligation for Best Foot Forward, but that is something that we do because we know it's incredibly important. And then our media, so part of the engagement and how we try to share the message of the Best Foot Forward program is engaging the media during our enforcement operations. Ms. Council, if you don't mind, I'd like to run through this and then I'll take all the questions afterwards. And so the media, we had over 320 placements in different media outlets over the full year, equating to about $1 million in earned media value, or I should say over $1 million in earned media value. And that's essentially taking the amount of airtime or the amount of printed time that we have in the media and equating that to, if we were to pay for advertisement dollars, what would we have to pay to be able to get our message out in those outlets? And it's about $1 million. So that's kind of the return on an investment of the program. And then of course, overall, we've had about 14.3 million impressions. And so this is social media likes, comments, engagements. And so we really tried to get all different types of audiences engaged with our message. Next slide, please. And so this is where we're doing the work. So we're all across the 3-county region and all of these different cities listed here. At this time, we have just recently selected the crosswalks for Longwood and Winter Park. They are not on this map, but they will be next year. But like I said, when we put the data online, we were able to kind of look at some trends that are happening within the data that we collect. And then of course, what's happening on the streets of our community. And one of the things that we found that I kind of thought was interesting was that when you look at the total number of lanes of a facility and what the yield rate, so the rate at which a driver will yield to a pedestrian, actually increases when the roadway is 3 lanes or 4 lanes versus 2 lanes, which actually is a little surprising. But part of the reason why we think that, we're going to dive into this a little bit more, is because we usually have enhanced crossings at some of those 3 and 4 lane facilities, like those rectangular rapid flashing beacons or additional signage, additional striping on the ground to really emphasize that crossing for that facility. So we see better yield rates because we beef up those crossings versus the 2 lane. Obviously, if anything's greater than 5 lanes or 6 lanes, that's a little bit more difficult for the driver to be able to yield. And then we looked at school distances. This one was kind of odd for us as well. We collect data both within school crossing distances and outside of that. And unfortunately, what we found was that the drivers actually yield to our data collectors less within a 1/4 mile of a school than outside of a 1/4 mile of a school. And part of that thinking is that typically when school is in session, we have crossing guards that assist across the 3-county region kids that need to cross to go to school. we do not collect data when those crossing guards are out. We go out when we still have kind of peak traffic congestion, but not necessarily when school's in play, and no one's really yielding to our people trying to cross the road. So we want to look at that a little bit more and maybe talk to some of our partners about opportunities to enhance those crosswalks, not only for people not crossing the road not during the school time, but also how do we help the crossing guards cross lots of kids, and we want to try to promote more kids to walk and bike to school. So how do we make those safer? And then the third little big piece of data, we kind of already know this, but it's just really telling that when we install a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, the yield rate increases about 40%. Now this is with education and enforcement, but generally speaking at mid-block crossings, noting the driver and alerting that someone is there has been very powerful in increasing the rate in which drivers respect, stop, and yield for people trying to cross the road. Next slide, please. And so here's some examples of how we've been able to use the data that we collect, make these low-cost engineering improvements, and see big change. So I'm going to start in this council's community over in Osceola County. This was Dover Plum and San Remo Road. So they installed an RFB back in 2020, and it actually had pretty low yield rates for one of those rectangular rapid flashing beacons. The roadway is a little wide, they're kind of offset a little bit. So we went out with the traffic engineers of Osceola County and we added a stop bar. We changed some things with the flex sticks, and we ultimately added some additional signing. And just by doing that, and this project was very inexpensive, we were able to increase the driver yield rate 19 points. So from 50% of drivers yielding to 69% of drivers yielding just by adding a white stripe and a couple little things on the ground. And because we're able to put this data online, we're able to then share it with our partners and show our partners what other successes are happening in communities. Next slide, please. This next one is actually in Orange County. So this is Pine Hills Road and El Trio Way. This is over by Evans High School. And some RFBs were installed November of 2020. It had a pretty good yield rate at about 50 some percent, but with engineering, with enforcement, and with some additional education in the community, we were able to increase the driver yield rate 56% since the inception of it coming into the program in 2014. So a huge improvement to the yielding compliance within Pine Hills Road. We are going to continue to monitor and have been additional crosswalks on Pine Hills Road as they prepare and hope to implement some safety improvements on Pine Hills. We're working really closely with Orange County to make sure that they have access to our data and know exactly how to tweak some of those safety improvements to make them safer for pedestrians. Next slide, please. And then the third is at Michigan and Cayman. This is one of the crosswalks that's been in our program the longest. And again, with adding a stop bar, this stop here for pedestrian signage, also updating the pedestrian crosswalk signage to a brighter green instead of the kind of muted yellow, actually improved the driver yield rate 16% initially. And then overall, the lifetime of the program, this crosswalk has improved 59% since 2012. So again, these are just examples that not only these little engineering tweaks do improve the crosswalks, but education and enforcement are really key to helping improve the safety and then awareness of people wanting to cross the road in that community. Next slide, please. So that was on the engineering front. We're going to switch and go back to education. So as I spoke earlier, we went out to do 132 events and presentations. Some of this we're starting to get back into in person, in public, which we're really excited about. Sometimes we kind of our message gets lost virtually, so we're trying to develop, as Cynthia indicated, some virtual content that we can share with different populations as well. But totally, we reached over 12,000 people, distributed 13,000 education materials. Next slide, please. And then on our social media and outreach, we had posted over 600 posts. So trying to engage the community on things that were happening. This is also sharing what our community partners are doing on social media as well. Everybody's doing a lot of really great work, so we want to highlight that. This is what Kissimmee is doing, or this is what Oviedo or Castleberry might be doing. And so we've had total impressions over 334,000. We've gained about 420 120-ish followers. So please follow and share all of our social media so that we can get more eyes on the education and information we share. And then our total engagements are about 6,000 for the year. Next slide, please. And then on our enforcement side, so as I stated earlier, we conducted 3 enforcement operations in last fiscal year. A total of 9 law enforcement partner agencies participated. And like I said, a little over 700 warnings and citations were issued. These are the breakdowns for the different dates of the enforcement operations we had. So starting in November, we almost doubled the number of participating agencies by July, by the end of the last fiscal year, and issued over 300 warnings and citations in that 2-day period in July. This was our back to school theme, so it was really important. We focused on crosswalks that were adjacent to schools. As you saw in the data earlier, it was really important we get out there and enforce and educate those drivers that, hey, kids were going back to school, you need to slow down and be safe. Next slide, please. And Leilani, if you want to run through these quickly, this is just a picture of Osceola County and the different law enforcement partners and their enforcement agencies. This is Orange County, really excited about Winter Park joining us, so they will have their photo there soon. And then the next is Seminole County. Again, looking forward to having Longwood join us. Here, Leilani, I would like to point out, if you just pause, the mayor of Castleberry is kneeled down with the city police department for this enforcement operation. He came out, was a decoy, crossed the road, really understood kind of the needs of the community, met with the city engineer. There are plans currently underway to reconstruct Winter Park Drive where this enforcement took place. So positive change is coming to the communities that are really engaged and active in the program. Next slide, please. Awesome. So progress to date. So we've, so this is since the program's started in 2012. We've almost educated about 11,000 drivers. I like to say educate because nobody likes to get a warning or a citation, but hopefully they learn their lesson that they need to stop and yield for pedestrians at a crosswalk. We've done about 563 enforcement details. Again, that's a single crosswalk that we do an enforcement operation at. Total, we monitor over 250 crosswalks across the 3-county region. Whether or not they're active or not, we continue to monitor those and note changes in their environment. And then we continue to try to educate. It's a little bit difficult in this virtual hybrid environment, but we're doing the best that we can, trying to get out into the community and educating on our mission and vision, and of course, what we're trying to do with Best Foot Forward. Next slide, please. And then this is a list of all of our coalition partners. So not only do the local government agencies are partners in our law enforcement agencies, but we also work with the health departments, the school boards, along with what's not pictured here is Orlando Health. They are often a pro bono partner that comes out and provides some educational materials on injury prevention. So we like to partner with everyone that we can across the board. Next slide, please. And this coalition is growing. We're one of the largest in the country, trying to promote and educate on pedestrian safety. And so ultimately, to wrap this up, just continue to tell everyone about what Metro Plan is. Thanks, Ms. Cortez. I understand I have those conversations often, but also why we need to stop and yield for pedestrians, why it's important to make sure that our community, your mother, your child, you know, our friends are safe when they're trying to go to a restaurant or go to a park or just cycle down a trail and enjoy their community. If you can, subscribe to our newsletter. We send that out once a month. It's got summary information of what we're doing with the Best Foot Forward program, but also what else, all the other stuff that Bike Walk is up to. Also by sharing national and state news and keeping you kind of up to date in bike ped safety space. We do have bumper stickers that we can provide Metro Plan. My goal was to be there in person today to give these to you. Unfortunately, I am not able to, so we will make sure that we have some available for you guys if you would like to put those on your cars or if you want to hand them out as well. And then continue to invite us to presentations. After doing this presentation last year, we had a couple people ask for me to come do this again, and I'm happy to do this. The more that we can share the message, the better. And then just do what you can to get involved and share the message of pedestrian safety here in Central Florida. And with that, that concludes my presentation, and I am happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. Thank you very much. We have some hands up, and Ms. Council, you've had your hand raised for a while, so you are recognized.
Thank you so much. Ms. Hannah, thank you. Thank you for what you do on Best Foot Forward. I am the poster child for this organization now. They have come out to so many of our events. Love Makes Me Grow hosts a farmer's market at the Civic Center of the city of Kissimmee. Love Makes Me Grow is an organization that I founded and that helps families grow their own sustainable food gardens. So we have about 8,000 families that are actively growing their own tomatoes and fruits and vegetables. And Best Foot Forward has come out to each event. They have the best representatives that are patient, loving, caring, compassionate people. Miss Ronnie Woods is amazing. So I know that I will be calling you out for about 10 different events in the next coming 6 months. And I would love for you to be fully prepared with your bumper stickers. They've given out helmets, they've given out information, and it's just an amazing program. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And we will be ready. We have all that available for you.
Mr. Pegram, you're recognized.
I've got two things. First one is, I don't think it's really a question, Emily, as much as just something for all of us to think about and all the projects that come to us in the TIP and long range plan and things like that. And it's more of a philosophical interaction between drivers and pedestrians and bicyclists is from a roadway design standpoint. Typically when you're designing an urbanized roadway that has curbs, they keep the area 2 feet from the face of curb clear. There's a clear zone envelope. So that means no signs, no trees, but a lot of complete streets efforts and things that happen not only in our community, but around the nation that want to add bike lanes. A lot of times they drop a bike lane immediately adjacent to that curb. And unfortunately, that gives this perception, if you kind of break it down, that it's not safe for a tree to be there because the driver could hit it, but it is safe for a bicyclist to be there, even though a driver could hit it. So I want us to think about kind of that methodology when we are looking at trying to add amenities in a corridor. Is that really what we want to convey for those corridors? Is, well, safe for a tree to be there, but it's okay for a bicyclist to be there or a pedestrian to be that close to the roadway. More of a philosophical, as a community, we want to think about managing all of these different users and what our decisions say about how we feel who has priority and who's more important. My broader question is, all the things that you're doing to reach out and educate, it seems like there's an opportunity on an annual or biannual basis to touch every driver in Florida, in the entire state, since we're really focused on the state enforcement, state law, and that's when they re-register. Everyone has to re-register their vehicle. So it seems like there's an opportunity to educate the moment they get that piece of paper in the mail or in the email. Moreover, I don't know, I guess it would be advocacy from a legislative standpoint. Is there any way that we can add an acknowledgement, or every time you re-register, you have to read and understand and acknowledge that statute that the pedestrians have right of way? It just seems like there's an opportunity there when the state goes through it, and we can get statewide visibility on a recurring basis, not just social media and physical handouts. And that was just my question, Emily. Is there any opportunity there that we can advocate from a legislative standpoint to really put our best foot forward?
That's a great question. To answer the best of my ability, we have looked at trying to encourage one of two things: what you're indicating, which is educating those drivers that have to get that renewal every so often. And driver, it's the vehicle registration they do yearly. Your driver's license you don't have to do quite as often. But because that's a state system, we would have to go much bigger and broader and then spread our energy and efforts on the Best Foot Forward program across the state. So we're not at that level yet. We're really trying to focus on Seminole, Orange, and Osceola counties. One, it has to do with the type of nonprofit we are. We can't go and advocate for certain legislation because we are they're not a 501(c), I believe. Don't quote me on that, but there is a specific type of nonprofit that can advocate for legislation changes. That's not something that we do. But in the interim, because we do realize that we do have an opportunity for education, Miss Ronnie Wood, along with some of our other community outreach staff, have gone to the DMVs that have allowed us to go in, and we've sat in their lobbies and handed out educational material almost as right at like October, November timeframe when the time changed and it got darker earlier. We really try to hit those areas pretty hard to try to educate everyone. So there we are expanding those opportunities. I would definitely like to partner with other organizations, maybe some of those nonprofits that do manage and handle that on a statewide effort. So more to come, but that is something that we're looking into, and that has been our interim solution, is to just go there, be there in person, describe why we're there and why it's important that they need to stop and yield for people.
Very good. Ms. Mott, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Amazing presentation, Ms. Hannah. And on behalf of the City of Apopka, I'd like to thank you for adding us, making us a part of the partnership. We're looking forward to doing our part to get the citizens engaged. And I'd also like to say your 14.3 million impressions says a lot about the fact that you all are doing a lot of things right, That's quite amazing. And finally, just the, you mentioned the data on the website. Can you direct me to a quick tab as to where we could find, the location as to where the data are, please?
Yeah. So I included the link in the chat for you. So you should just be able to click on that link and it'll take you to the website. On the website page, it has the different maps are kind of identified as the driver yield rate, the enforcement, and community outreach. And you can click through those. There's different options you can see as well. So if you have any questions on the data specifically, please don't hesitate to let me know.
Okay, thank you kindly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome. Ms. El Badri.
Hello, good morning. Hi, Ms. Hannah. Congratulations on the growth of your organization. We're very excited about that. I did want to just piggyback on Jeff Pigram's comment about working with during potentially providing some educational opportunities during vehicle re-registration. And I totally understand you guys are a very focused organization in Central Florida. But our tax collector does a really great job of doing a lot of community engagement. And I wonder if he may be able to provide some kind of opportunity when he sends out those vehicle registrations to provide some information or encouragement for folks to be more considerate of all users, besides drivers. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you. That's a good option.
Mr. Bobinger.
Good morning. Thank you for the presentation. It's wonderful. As we all drive down the streets in Orlando and everywhere else, we see people, not utilizing the legal crosswalks. A lot of that happens in front of schools. And a thought would be if there was a way to connect with the PTAs and the school boards and be able to actually do presentations for them, because those are the children and the parents are the ones that really need to learn this stuff and understand that crossing in a crosswalk is the safest place to make sure your child gets home every day. We have numerous people, citizens and students getting hit. Good examples is in front of Evans High School on Silver Star, where kids are hopping out of the middle of their cars in the middle of two lanes and running in between cars and wonder why they get hit by a car. It's crazy. I know our law enforcement can't sit in every school zone, although I wish they did. When I was in law enforcement, I sat in school zones and wrote tickets all day long. But down here, it's a little different than Ohio. So I see it all day long. I drive a police Tahoe every day, and people just don't understand that, pedestrians are going to cross the street kind of where they want to. And it really comes down to educating the general public as well as the students and children where it is safe to cross, and really starting with the schools and the PTAs and things like that, and maybe even Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts programs would be a good starting point to get some voices out. I'm going to hit up our city manager in Altamont and see why they aren't on board, as I live in Altamont, and we have a lot of schools and a lot of areas that people drive fast, and it's a good program. I really want to see it succeed and continue to keep our people safe for that matter. But yes, thank you for all your efforts. I will have the city of Altamont try to get a hold of you and get something started there as well. But Seminole County schools and people like that, I think, would be wanting to jump on this to get education out there.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. We did a presentation to the national, or I should say the local PTA presidents. So they were all have a meeting, and we did present information to them, offered the opportunity to come speak. But we've only had a couple people actually come back and request those presentations. So it is something that's on our radar that we are pursuing, is trying to get more into the schools. The schools are a little difficult during COVID. Still, considering the circumstances with COVID, it's kind of touch and go, but we are trying to do what we can to try to educate in the schools as well. But thank you for that. And I look forward to hearing from the city of Altamont Springs.
Thank you.
All very good questions. We'll take two more, Mr. Sabila and Ms. Council. Mr. Sabila.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you recognizing me. And thank you, Ms. Hannah, for that amazing presentation. We've talked before, and Mr. Bovinger, I'm actually on the PTO board of an elementary school here in Orange County, Kings Crossing, our largest elementary school in the county. And we are very much aware of and trying to do our best to communicate all of these messages to not only our parents, who do let out their children, their young school-age children, on the side of the road wherever they please, but also just commuters who are traveling our roadways around the school, just getting to and from work and don't have anything to do with the school other than just passing by it. But Ms. Hannah, your presentation was most enlightening when you mentioned your partnership with Healthy West Orange. I was not aware of that. And they are a great partner, because we are in unincorporated Orange County. And our Orange County Sheriff deputies are doing the best they can to be at almost every intersection. And we have a severe shortage, as in every community, a severe shortage of crossing guards. So I will be taking up not only your resources and messaging that you've offered up, but also partner with Healthy West Orange, again, to not only communicate this to our parents, as we are working diligent to do, but also our surrounding communities that don't necessarily follow our school social media channels, but might be following other social media channels within their communities as they drive through our school zones. We have not only dangerous intersections in front of our school, but Bridgewater Middle School just up the street. Children are getting hit, and they are using crosswalks. It is a matter of impatient drivers that are, and includes parents as well, not just commuters, who are literally hitting children as they are trying to use the crosswalk because there's no crossing guard there. So we're trying to do our best here. So thank you for your help.
Absolutely. And after this, I will contact you and we'll work out when we can come out and present to your group. And I will share some more information on the Healthy West Orange project as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, and we'll take the final one from Ms. Council.
Thank you so much for the recognition. We were able at the Deerwood Elementary School to get Miss Ronnie Woods to come out and give a presentation at our CAC meeting. I would also like to add to that list, Miss Hannah, the Chestnut School, because I will be working with them as well. They're all in that same area of the Kissimmee, Ponciana, Osceola County ending before Polk County. Recently, since the last time that Ronnie was able to come out, there's been about 30 accidents in our area because it's increased in numbers of people moving into the area. And since it's a more of affordable area that the people are taking their hot-footed drivers over here. So we have also had 2 other children get hit, and also a couple of pedestrians, where one ended up in the hospital with broken shoulder, broken ribs. It's just at an all-time point that not only do we need that one in St. Ramo, but we need like 15 of them, if I could get a hold of them, to put them in all areas of this area, because people are not paying attention at all. And the observance of our police is on the main roads of Pleasant Hill. So all the inner blocks, smaller areas, they are being used as drag racing at this point. So when I bought this home 3 years ago, the roads didn't look like this, but I literally want best foot forward on every corner here. So once again, the presentations that Ms. Ronnie Wood did in my school literally got us to be able to start putting in a sidewalk by our school. So if I gotta keep, thanking you, I am gonna do that, because I'm already seeing a petition going around with the other parents to sign for this sidewalk. That's showing me that, kids are not walking by the pit, the dirt, the snakes and everything else, and then getting hit by a car because they don't want to be on the road. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And to your point, we'll address real quick that we are working with Osceola County to try to help identify those safe routes to school, and then leverage education and enforcement so that they can receive higher marks on grant funding so they can receive those matching dollars to install those sidewalks. So it's really just trying to figure out what the goals of the community are, align those goals, and hope to improve the connectivity for pedestrians and cyclists, regardless of their age, but most importantly, those elementary and middle school age children. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you. Oh, Mr. Shaw.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank Ms. Hannah for all that she's doing. And perhaps if we had a program similar to that, which she's speaking about in 1993, my son would never have died, because he died as a result of an automobile bicycle collision. And I just want you to know that I appreciate everything that you are doing. This is just awesome. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm so sorry for your loss, and I am glad.
Thank you. Thank you.
Making a positive impact.
Yes, indeed. This is very, very close to my heart. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Well, Ms. Hannah, you see the reception you've received. So great job. I'm going to ask one more question. What's involved in a municipality in becoming a partner with this Foot Forward?
So when a municipality becomes a part of the program, originally or initially, they have to pay for part of the program costs. And essentially what MetroPlan has done is they've allowed us and given us funding over the years to expand the program in Orange County and Osceola County and Seminole County, but now we've expanded in MetroPlan Orlando's region. So now our goal is to try to make the program feasible for our small cities to participate in and allow us to be able to expand that program. So thank you to MetroPlan Orlando and the continuous funding that they give us to operate the program, because of that continuous funding, we're able to broaden that into the cities. And because of that, we were able to make the program essentially very cost effective. It's about $5,000 annually for a municipality to receive 3 enforcements, all of the data that we collect, the education at the different communities and where they want our education efforts at. Obviously, the program's customizable because some cities have different needs, and we realize that. So we do have some stock, some time costs for some projects that you would like us to do and work on. We certainly can. So that's about it. They just need to contact me. I need to go meet with their commission, and then they just have to agree that they're going to start funding the program on an annual basis.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Great presentation.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Our presentations for today. There are several items under your general information tab 3 of your agenda packets. Please be sure to take a look at that when you can. Our next CAC meeting will be February 23rd. MetroPlan Orlando staff will advise us as to the format of that meeting, probably in the next couple of weeks or so. CAC meeting dates for the remainder of the year. I know we've shared this before, but they're in your packets. But if you want to just jot this down, I just said February 23rd, we have 4/27, 5/25, 6/22, 8/24, 10/26, and 12/7. Okay, those are the dates for the rest of the year. Also mentioned in your packet this time is a attendance sheet. And I'd like to congratulate, there's 10 people that had perfect attendance last year. So take a look at that, and congratulations is in order for those 10 people that had perfect attendance, all right? At this point, we're to our member comment section. Do we have any committee members that would like to make final comments? Mr. Pegram, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just throw out that last time we met, I was turned on to a book that I would recommend for members of this committee because it certainly has made me rethink the way that I look at city planning and infrastructure and transportation. And I'm not sure, I may be a couple of years behind the ball here, but the book is called Strong Towns. And it really just kind of opened my eyes to the value that I can add being part of this committee and this community. So just want to throw that out there as something that may blow some people's hair back. It's a different way of looking at our role in the community and the way that we design our community. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. El Badri. You are
So I think Theo might be addressing something. I'm not sure. I'm gonna, if it's okay, I'll let Ms.
Okay, Ms.
Webster go
Wesley,
first.
you're recognized.
I just wanted to comment on Orange County's looking at going forward with the penny sales tax for transportation, and would be very interested in receiving more information about that as soon as it's available and how it fits into the long range plan. That's my comment.
Good. Ms. El Badri, did you have something?
I did, and so I'll probably share with Marianne the link to yesterday's Orange County work session. So the Board of County Commissioners discussed what a penny sales tax might look like this year, and that if it does go forward, it would go on the November election. So the link that I'll send to Marianne is the presentation, the recorded presentation that was provided yesterday. In addition to that, I didn't realize this, but I think it's something that we should have be aware of, is that all of the monies coming through the infrastructure package passed at the federal level will be delivered to states. And then for us, it will become a competitive funding process in which we have to provide, a really strong application. So I say all that to say is that, I think everybody kind of needs to be on the same page about what we want in order to be competitive at a state level to get some funding into our communities. Those are my only two comments. Thank you for recognizing me, Chair.
Erica, you said that to everyone?
I think Marianne will distribute it.
Excellent. Excellent. We need to share that. Okay. No more. We will move now to public comments. If any members of the public wish to comment, please use your raise hand function and you will be recognized, or dial *9 on your phone keypad. We'll unmute you, and after you are recognized, please state your name and address for the record. Limit it to 2 minutes, please.
Mr. Chairman, we have Joanne Canellis with her hand raised.
Ms. Canellis?
Right here, I'm Joanne Canellis, 324 Claremont Avenue, Lakeland, Florida, 32746. What about Seminole County? About this this thing here that is that lady was talking about. She had it in her Orange County, and what about in Seminole County too?
Are you referring to the Best Foot Forward presentation?
Best Foot Forward, and yes, I also referred to transportation, a better transportation like public transportation, like bus and train and stuff, please.
I think they are partnered with Seminole County.
And that's why I made sure, because I did walk from my house to the train station, but it's kind of long, and I like it better with the bus over at the I like it better with the bus stop over at the Estella Road in Lake Mary, Florida, by the park, please.
Okay, well, we will include that with the previous request that you gave us, if that's okay. Is that okay with you?
Yes, yes, that's included.
Excellent. Thank you so much again for your comment.
24 hours bus and train service, including holidays, weekends, and nighttime, so no one would be stranded like that, please. And don't forget the one at the Oviedo Boulevard in Oviedo, Florida, by the pool that I go to, swimming pool.
Yes, ma'am, we
Yeah.
have that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're very well. Thank you for your comments.
You're welcome. Bye.
Are there any other hands raised?
There are no additional hands raised on the attendees side.
Were there any written comments?
Mr. Chair, there were no written comments of a general nature.
Dr. Stevens?
Can I point your attention to the chat room? I saw that Mr. Pigram actually made mention of the tax situation in Seminole County that might address the previous speaker's comments.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Mr. Pigram. Thank you, Vice Chairman Stevens. At this time, if there's no further business, I want to say thank you to all of the committee members. Thank you for all of the staff members at Metro Plan. And at this point, we are adjourned.
Great meeting, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Stay safe, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye,
Have a good day,
everybody.
everybody.